paving the way for future missions beyond.
Well, for
The space race was a diplomatic competition in the 1950s between the United States and the Soviet Union. So, how did this event end peacefully without debate or any conflict?
The space race in the 1950s was a competition between the United States and the Soviet Union to see who developed better technology that ended peacefully because the two countries cooperated and science flourished.
This significant event happened after World War II in the 1950s and was one of the main causes for the dawn of the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union.
The first major event of the space race was when the U.S. entered the race on January 31st, 1958, by launching the Explorer 1, which was the first U.S. satellite to reach orbit. Because of the space race encouraging technological advancements, satellites are a major contribution to society, and without the space race, we wouldn't have them.
Satellites are capable of predicting information about clouds, ocean, land, air, and crops. We still use these today, and without them we wouldn't be able to see large areas of Earth at a time.
Continuing on in this race, the second major event was a dog named Laika, who was the first living thing sent into space by the Soviet Union in Sputnik 2. Sputnik 2 was the second spacecraft launched into Earth orbit.
One-way trip, with Laika surviving just a few hours and travelling around the world 9 times before a failure in the Soviet.
On October 1st of 1958, NASA is created in the USA, which is the third major event. NASA replaced the NACA, the National Advisory Committee on Aeronautics. This led to achieving more space and technology improvement and advancements.
On the 18th of December 1958, the U.S. launches SCORE, which is the fourth major event. SCORE was the first world's communications satellite that helped with broadcasting. This satellite helped broadcasting in many ways, like a message from the U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, which was the first broadcast of a human voice from space.
On the 12th of April 1961, the first human in space was Yuri Gagarin, which is the fifth major event. Yuri Gagarin made a single orbit around the Earth and remained in space for about 1 hour and 48 minutes. The Soviet Union achieved a clear triumph in the space race, making them have a clearer picture of space and what it was like.
Success in space when the Russians pushed a man across the threshold.
It has been 57 years since the first human ventured into space. On April 12, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin made history at the age of 27 by completing a single orbit of Earth in approximately 108 minutes.
The Russians had successfully launched the first satellite ever to circle the Earth.
In the late 1950s, the Soviet Union placed the first artificial satellite, Sputnik 1, into orbit, igniting the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. The competition over who had superior technology and military fight power took center stage during the Cold War. The Soviets claimed the first victory by sending the first man into space. Yuri Gagarin took flight in a capsule-like spacecraft called Vostok 1, which was adapted from a Soviet intercontinental ballistic missile, the R-7 Semyorka. Beginning his flight at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in southern Kazakhstan, Gagarin reached a maximum height of 203 miles.
On June 16th of 1963, Valentina Tereshkova becomes the first civilian woman in space, which is the sixth major event. She volunteered for the Soviet Union space program and was accepted into it. She had no experience as a pilot and went on a solo mission. She spent almost 3 days in space, orbiting the Earth 48 times aboard her spacecraft, Vostok 6. Because of this, she became a leader for women and inspired many people to achieve their goals.
On July 16, 1969, first humans on the moon, Apollo 11, from the U.S. side, which is the seventh major event. Neil Armstrong and later Edwin Buzz Aldrin, who became the first man to walk on the moon, while their crewmate Michael Collins continues to orbit the moon aboard the Apollo 11.
On the 19th of April in 1971, the USSR launches the first space station, which is the eighth major event. Astronauts needed a place to stay and support them. This also allowed them to make more discoveries and observations. Parts of the spacecraft will become core segments of the International Space Station, ISS, almost 30 years later in November 2000.
On April 19, 1971, the Soviet Union launched the world's first space station, Salyut 1. This space station was a modified version of the Soviet Union's Almaz space station, which was part of a highly classified military program and was still under development at the time. After NASA managed to put astronauts on the moon, the Soviet Union decided that its next big feat in the space race would be to put a crewed space station in orbit. The first crew to visit Salyut 1 in orbit launched just 4 days after the space station did. However, that crew had some technical problems while trying to dock with the space station in their Soyuz spacecraft, so they went back home without ever actually entering the station. Another crew launched 2 months later, and after a successful docking, they spent 23 days aboard the station.
The purpose of the space race was to increase the knowledge of science and technology so society could grow and would continue to. The United States winning brought more power to them because everyone knew who had the best advancements and led to increase in education.
Dr. Asif Siddiqui made a timeline on all the major events during the space race, like technology and science advancements, rocket and satellites launches, and many other important events.
Although the USSR made more advancements, the USA ended up winning because they made it to the moon first. What we know today, technology and science-wise, would not be the same without the journey of the space race. The USA will now continue to and grow because of this.
The space race was a race to the moon in 1955 that led to many technological, science, and economic advancements. Throughout the race, there was a lot of tension between the USSR and the US, but they went down after the space race ended and left off on good terms.
The diplomacy was successful because of many improvements, and the debate was resolved after tensions went down, and the countries went back to studying and improving space technology with joint missions beginning in 1975, effectively ending the space race.
We would not be successful today if it weren't for the space race and the achievements and improvements it brought in.
Stephen Hawking said, "I don't think this human race will survive the next 1,000 years unless we spread into space."